The A's are going to Chicago to play the White Sox. I hope they take care of business. And by taking care of business, I mean I hope they sweep them.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the podcast we talk about your Oakland A's all year long, and this, what could be their final season in Oakland. I don't know what's happening. Neither do you. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for a while now, and this is wrapping up my sixth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network, where I'm also the host of that show right there, Locked On MLB. Follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and Locked On, that's the same handle for Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I am at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Yeah, it's early Saturday morning. I'm recording this part of it. I'm going to be doing one of my weekend recaps. And yeah, this is, look at, if the idea for the A's is to get to 73 wins, 73 wins means they avoid 90 losses in their final year in Oakland, or what could be their final year. We're going to talk about that later this week because we're just now getting mixed signals. Is Sacramento going to happen? Are they coming back to Oakland? Wouldn't that be the weirdest finale? That's someone, a local business comes in, buys the A's, they go to the Coliseum, and they build the stadium. I mean, isn't that kind of what we're all hoping for? And eventually Las Vegas gets a expansion franchise, or maybe the White Sox move there. I don't know. The White Sox, what's happening with them sounds eerily similar. Although give White Sox fans credit, 26,000 fans were there at the Guaranteed Rate Ballpark / U.S. Cellular Field / New Comiskey Park, whatever the hell that stadium is called now. I went to that stadium, by the way. My father and I, the first year it was open was 1991. And my father and I, may rest in peace, used to go on baseball trips. We'd go on baseball stadium trips. And we purposely targeted fields, not Target Field, but we targeted fields that were about to face a Wreckers Ball. So we would go to, or that were potentially facing the Wreckers Ball. So we went to Old County Stadium in Milwaukee. We went to Tiger Stadium. We went to the Old Cleveland Municipal Stadium, the Mistake by the Lake. We went to all the cookie cutter parks. Like I went to the Vet and Three Rivers Stadium and Riverfront Stadium. We went to Stade Olympique in Montreal. We tried to hit as many parks that looked like they were probably going to be torn down in one way, shape, or another. And we didn't get to Old Comiskey, but we were there when it was called New Comiskey in 1991. And I know this is an A's podcast, but it's just a memory came up. And when we were there in 1991, they were still demolishing Old Comiskey. It wasn't like an implosion the way you have them now. It was being, knocked down by the Wreckers, literally the Wreckers Ball. So when we were there, half of Old Comiskey still, existed with the green stands and the yellow railings. And we went to New Comiskey. We were in the upper deck. And the first few years of New Comiskey, the upper deck was raked so intensely because they built all of these luxury boxes. This was the last stadium built before Camden Yards. So they didn't have a chance to have the stadium renaissance yet. And they made a mistake with this stadium because it's very bland. It had a lot of the moderate amenities, but there was not a lot of character to it. And the upper deck was raked so badly. We were sitting in the upper deck, my dad and I were. And it was actually scary going up there. If you ever watched the old Adam West Batman, when he's climbing up the side of a building, that's what it felt like. It felt like we're climbing up the side of a building together. I mean, it was fine, but there was not a lot of character to it. And now they want to build a new stadium there, and where is it going to go? Um, they've since improved. It looks like they've made a lot of improvements to the stadium. It looks like it's a little more colorful and a little less bland. And they apparently did fix the upper deck, so it's not raked so dangerously up there. But that's always been my memory. My dad and I go, we feel like we're going to fall in the ballpark. I got to see Carlton Fisk play there the last time. That was back in 1991. But good on the White Sox crowd for having a decent sized crowd there for a team that seems to be a lock to finish with the worst record in the history of the modern game. But good for the A's too. They have to win these games. The goal is they won the game 2-0 against Chicago, and they are now at 65 wins. They got to get to 73. 73 wins gets them. That would be a 73-89 record. So they can only afford to lose 6 more games. They have to go 8-6. There's 14 more games left. And to avoid 90 losses after back-to-back 100 losses and over 110 losses last year, and remember, lest we forget how awful they were in May and June, and it looked like in May and June, lest we forget, it looked like there might be a competition between the White Sox and the A's over who the worst team in baseball is going to be. But the A's have righted the ship. And the A's are playing good baseball. And I'm going to go to baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in the history of the planet Earth, and to remind us a little something about this year, that the A's hit their low point, their absolute low point, on June 30th. On June 30th, they were, say it with me, everyone, 26 games under 500. And just had a horrific month, 2 straight horrific months. Remember, they got to 500 when I was there on May 4th, and then they fell 26 games under 500 in less than 2 months. This team was in an absolute free fall, and we're only 6 games in front of the White Sox at that point. Since then, the A's are the 3rd best team in the American League. Only the Astros, who flipped a 10-game deficit into a 5-game lead, and the Tigers, who are surprisingly hanging around, have been better than the A's in that stretch. That's July, August, and most of September. That's nearly half a season where they're the 3rd best team in the American League. That's something to think about and build upon, especially if they stay in Oakland. Rooker drove in a run. He now has 103 runs. Gelof's double was what got the scoring started. They started Crochet, but he only pitched 4 innings. I think they're shutting him down. And then they went to the bullpen. The White Sox bullpen wasn't bad. They only let up 1 run. But Otañez, Ferguson, of course, Miller, they all did their job. And Basso pitched into the 6th with a shutout. And they did the job. They did what you need them to do, which is win the freaking game, which brings us to Saturday. So now Saturday's game is going to start around 4 o'clock West Coast time. Flexen versus Ginn. And wait a minute, did I pronounce his name wrong? Because it's funny. There's sometimes when you don't actually say a person's name, you don't remember. You don't always know if you're saying the name wrong. So, JT, I'm saying it right. JT Ginn. They don't list his. All right, I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Forgive me, my brain is scattered. But he pitched well his last couple of games, and so they got to pitch better than Flexen. So here we go. The March 2. Was it the March to what's the record we need? The March to only 89 losses, which means 73 wins. They are 8 wins away from that. They better be 7 by the time we get back here and talk about Saturday's game. Let's hear from our friends over at FanDuel. You've heard us talk about FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. We'll have something a little different for you right now. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. Say that 3 times fast. All you'll need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks so much for making Locked On A's your first listen today. For your second listen to more of me. I'm the host of the Locked On MLB podcast. I'm here to provide you a national perspective with my point of view, sometimes my humor, sometimes my silliness, sometimes my passion. I got it all for you. I'm going to help you cover the Major League Baseball playoffs through the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with me, your pal Sully. I've it covered every single day at Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Seriously, A's? Seriously, you're going to lose a game like that? You're going to lose a game to the White Sox. Now, the White Sox took an early 3-0 lead. Okay, do you know what? You have to give the White Sox, I guess, a little bit of credit. They are nominally a major league team. Gavin Sheets hit the home run. It's 3-0. Okay, then comes the 6th. Guess who's there again? Brent Rooker, our buddy, who, by the way, got 3 hits and drove in 2 on that single that tied the game in the 6th inning. All right, so now it's 3-3. At that point, you're like, take this team out. You know, Flexen pitched pretty well. He pitched 5 shutout innings, striking out 8. And he let up too many runs. He let up 8 base runners in 5 innings. He couldn't score off of them. But then in comes the guy, Cool, who comes up and stinks. De Los Santos gets out of that inning. And so De Los Santos pitches 2 1/3 shutout innings. And suddenly, this freaking guy, Nicky Lopez, who I forgot was even a Major League Baseball player. I mean, everyone's going to remember how it is. But Nicky Lopez, lest we forget, went 3 for 5, driving in 3 runs. The hell's going on? And then, he makes it a 4. He makes the Lopez scored on the Benintendi single. Lopez drives in a couple more. Suddenly, so for the White Sox take 2 3-run leads. That to me is the headline. Everyone's going to remember how this game ended, but the headline was twice the worst team in the history of baseball took a 3-run lead. I'll take one. It happens. But twice. Mueller didn't pitch particularly well. Neither did Hallman. But then the A's rally in the 9th. And suddenly 2 runs come in on surprise, an error by one of the worst teams in the history of baseball, if not the worst team. So now there's nobody out. So the bases are loaded. Okay. And it's at that point a 1-run game. Zach Gelof singles, scores Blade. The game is tied with nobody out and the base is loaded. Send in Shea Langoliers. The fleet of foot Shea Langoliers. Heaven forbid you hold him. But you know what? I get it. And the throw went high. If he's nailed at the plate, you still got a runner in scoring position. The throw went high and somehow the tag was made. All right, fine. The replay showed it was the right call. But then you've tied the game, and you have the runner on second, 1 out now. If they held Langoliers, you'd have the tie game with nobody out. But fine. Soderstrom and Schumann come up, and they lay an egg. And up comes Benintendi, Red Sox hero from the somewhat tainted 2018 title, hits that drive down the right field line, and the White Sox get to celebrate. Langoliers almost scored. If that ball went a little higher or the catcher didn't get his glove down, the 2 runs would have scored. They would have had the lead. And I can't be too mad about that because it was aggressive. I don't know if I would have sent Langoliers. The game was already tied, and you'd have the bases loaded. But again, it was an inch away from looking like a brilliant move. And maybe you're being aggressive. But you got a bases loaded, nobody out, tie game, and the White Sox pitcher's knees knocking. You could have a wild pitch, a balk, a walk, anything like that. And they lost. They came back from 2 3-run deficits, including a 9th-inning rally. And they lost. And here we are. You can't lose games to the White Sox if you're trying to get to that number. Now, if they win tomorrow, I guess I'll find the glass half full and saying they won a series. The idea for this team is to get to 73 wins by any means necessary. You can't lose a game to the White Sox. And here's the thing that drives me crazy. It's now a rubber game. It is now a rubber game. Are they even going to win this series? If they walk away, and you all know what happened already, but if they go away and we see that they didn't even win the series, all right, I got to admit, I'm going to be watching this game with a little bit of worry because they can't. I really, really want to see this team win 73 games. I really, really want to see them avoid 90 losses and what could be their final year in Oakland. We have to say stuff like that because everything's all messed up. You come back from 2 3-run deficits and you can't hold the worst team in the history of baseball. Yeah, I'm a little mad right now. We got a rubber game. It's tomorrow. You already know what happens. I don't. Come on, A's. Don't do this to me. You know what Gametime is? It's the best place to get tickets for all your live events. And now Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks, which makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff and shows you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So check out Seat Views. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Check out the lowest price guaranteed. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference, and you'll have the Gametime ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, this is a reminder that Locked On MLB is the other show you should be listening to. I'm the host of that too, and I'm getting you prepared for the Fall Classic. I've got it covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. All right, A's. In my office. Now. It didn't even occur to me that the Oakland A's could lose the series to the Chicago White Sox. I've been saying lots of positive things about the A's recently, pointing out to people who write them off and saying like, hey, wait a minute. Did you know little things like the A's had a 52-game stretch where they went 13-39. Other than that stretch, they're 6 games above 500. If you take away that 52-game stretch, they've been playing for the rest of the year really good baseball, better than most teams in the American League. I've been giving them credit and trying to preach the gospel of an overachieving A's team, which is not going to win a pennant or a trip to the playoffs, but have made tremendous improvements. And if they only win X number of games, then they could indeed finish their final year in Oakland and not be a 90-loss team. All of these things I said. And then, on the day after coming back from multiple 3-run deficits to a team that is going to eclipse the 1962 Mets as the worst team in the history of baseball, and still allowing them to walk off. Today, another 1-run loss. And of course, it was made a 1-run loss because of a pinch hit home run by Shea Langoliers, who saw one pitch and hit it for a homer with 2 outs in the 9th. I mean, what is there to break down about this game? What is there to break down bit by bit? The White Sox brought out a guy by the name of Frazier Ellard. You'll forgive me if I was unfamiliar with his resume. One thing I do know is he went into Sunday's game tied in his Major League Baseball career in terms of total saves in his career with me. 0, in case you're wondering. In a game where Sheets hit a home run off of Sears, someone named Ramos hit a home run off of Sears. Okay, I do know who Brian Ramos is, okay? I'm not that ignorant about the glories of the 2024 Chicago White Sox. He is a player who has some ability. You wouldn't know it from his stats, but today you would have thought it was Frank freaking Thomas. Bleday did his job. He got his 2 doubles. Rooker did his job. Of course he did. He had a 2-run home run. But now, for the first time since June, for the first time since the A's were going on that horrific losing streaks they were going on in May and June, for the first time since then, the White Sox are having, and say it with me, folks, a winning streak. 2. This is the longest winning streak they've had in literally months. And it came at the heels of the A's. Well, let's go over something, folks. The A's record right now is 65-85. What have I been clamoring for them to do? Avoid 90 losses. Now, as we said, the magic number is 73. If they had swept the series, they would have 67 wins. If they had won the series, they would have 66 wins. They won 1 game and dropped the final 2. So they're stuck at 65. They have 12 games left. There are 12 games left officially for the Oakland A's. Now, I don't know whether they're going to play next year. You don't. No one really knows what's going to happen next year. I think the odds are they're going to play in Sacramento. They could play in Oakland for all we know. That's how weird this year has been. I want them to avoid 90 losses this year. Psychologically, I think that would be great for them. So they have 12 games left, and they can afford to lose 4. 4 is all they can afford to lose the rest of the way. They have to go 8-4. This is how crummy losing these 2 games were. Because if they had won them, then you could just say, play 500 ball and you'll avoid 90 losses. Now they got to go on a run. And by the way, it's not going to get any easier than playing one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the history of baseball. They're going to play the Cubs next. Now, the Cubs, this is not the 2016 Cubs, but this is not the 2024 White Sox either. The Cubs have some talent on their team. The Cubs are actually a major league team. The Cubs have been punched in the face, but they are, well, they still have major leaguers on their roster. Then, starting on Friday, they'll have the final homestand in Oakland. And they're going to play the Yankees. I'm not sure if you've been familiar with them, but they've been playing some pretty good baseball. They just took 3 out of 4 from Boston. And they're playing a lot better. They seem to have figured out their bullpen situation. So that's not going to be easy. Then comes the final home series against the Rangers. Now, they're going to play the Cubs, the Yankees, the Rangers, and the Mariners. They can afford to lose one game in each of those series. Once it gets to 2 games in any one of those series, they have to win the rest of their series. That's what it comes down to avoid 90 losses. Maybe it's a fool's errand, but here we are. It's mid-September, and I think it's still something worth playing for. But you got to do better than this. You got to do better than this. You can't lose games like this anymore, and there are no games to lose like this anymore. So this is frustrating. This is stupid. This was stupid. These last 2 wins were dumb. But here we are. Maybe they'll dust themselves off. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they're playing the Cubbies. Let's see what happens. All right, so, this is not how I thought this episode was going to go. I had so much optimism in episode 1. Follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully, but Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Angry that the A's can't be better than one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the history of baseball. This has been Locked On A's. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Yuck, and you can call me Sully.